alternative history research show, pyramids, pyramid technology, and alternative history research. Shem Jacobs and Elkman. Ryan with us tonight. How you boys doing?
Good.
Appreciate you having me. What's going on?
Appreciate you being here. Well, I was inspired today by several different videos coming out. One I was trying to find to play before we went live, and all of a sudden it's not showing up for me. I believe it was done by Mystery History Channel or Mystery History Channel 2, but it was about Samir Zvanovic and updates on his work with the Bosnian pyramids, as well as that apparently he just did 3 weeks or 4 weeks in the jungle in Asia. I believe it's Indonesia. I could be wrong. Somewhere in that area, but investigating another pyramid mountain out there. And so it was new to me, and I'll try to find it before the show is done. And then not sure if you guys had a chance to watch the metamaterial and metaphysics Monday episode I did last night, but had an awesome, epic guest from Mexico, Faustino, I believe it is. Don't kill me if I got that wrong, something along those lines. But we played a large portion of a presentation on pyramid technology that he had done before, and how he's doing experiments with electroculture with pyramids, and then he also gave some history showing just ridiculous, like vehicle-sized vegetables that one farmer down in Mexico, close in his locality when he was a child, was growing, and that this guy had claimed it was through knowledge from the ancient Mayans, and that he was right by a bunch of these pyramids as well.
What kind of vegetables?
There was a carrot the size of a little girl. There was cabbage that were literally 5 to 6 feet in size, like bigger than people. Like one seemed like it was with the leaves out and stuff. It was like the size of this entire flatbed back bed of a truck. And then that there was pictures of them standing in these cornfields that were like 12 to 16 feet tall, and then they had one of like the cabbage with them, and it was like from the 60s or 70s, I believe.
Cool.
And then he himself now is experimenting with electroculture with, oh goodness, what is the French channel's name? It will come to me. There's one really good channel out there. The guy's in France. I forget the name, but he's been doing it for about 10 years. Different electroculture. And then both through pyramids, making like copper pyramids, as well as now mixing geopolymer into it. And then also with Ormus monoatomics, like I'm doing. So it was quite the awesome conversation.
Yeah, sounds like it. The growing of the vegetables thing is interesting to me. Did you ever see Praveen Mohan's experiment where he did that he was like on a table trying to put vegetables in these tiny pyramids for multiple days and see how long it took for them to expire? It was like the most silly experiment ever to try to prove that, because obviously it's not the same as a real pyramid, so I didn't even understand why he did it, but it was pretty funny to me.
I missed those ones, and I like a lot of Praveen's work, though sometimes, he gets a little too excited and doesn't really fully go with the scientific method, which would help a lot more in these cases. But it's getting the idea out there, and then it's actually figuring out real scientific experiments that we can reproduce, do, and try out, and that lots of people out there have been showing great success with. John Wayne, pyramids and in Antarctica, right? That's another one that we'll have to do a full episode on. We'll get all the back materials into, and I've got a talk with Eric Hecker again about his experience in Antarctica, where he actually was given a giant panorama of a mountain range down there taken by one of his coworkers while he was there that has a couple pyramids in it, and that he was able to see some pyramids while flying over from where they landed to McMurdo or one of the other where he was.
If you share my screen real quick, I have a picture of Antarctica from the 1950s that's a little bit more detailed than what we get today.
Heck yes.
So yeah, this is from the Hammond World Atlas of 1957. This is one of my grandfather's books, and as you can see, they show a lot more green area in Antarctica, and there's also a lot more detail of what's going on down here compared to the maps we have today. So I know it's hard to see on Instagram.
Still though, right? Like,
see how detailed it is.
How is there more detail than we're given now?
Yeah, this is what we're given now. This is Google. Just for comparison, this is what it looks like now with our advanced technology. But yeah, back in the 1950s, this is what we're working with. So you can see up to the South Pole. According to this map, I mean, it alludes to there being green around this area. I mean, that's my interpretation of what I'm seeing here.
Whoa.
So I don't know. Hammond World Atlas, 1957.
Yeah, keep that up for a moment. That I don't know if we can make it any bigger. Hey,
I don't think we can, but
Instagram.
I was also looking into, like, there's a website that lists historic sites on Antarctica, and a lot of them were these weird monuments all over the place down there. I don't know if they've been renamed or I don't know. But yeah, this is another map of Antarctica. You can see it's pretty much, they say everything's frozen, no green land, less detail.
Right, like, and it seems like there's lots of different stations and like outposts and whatnot, different features, settlements and whatnot labeled there, where today we're given none of that.
Yeah, really strange. I don't know.
And were you saying that there was pyramids labeled in that one or no?
Oh, no pyramid. I didn't notice any pyramids on here at all now. Mount Sedley is labeled, but I mean, no signs of it being man-made or anything like that, according to this.
And shout out Elkman.
Yeah, in the old
Island.
In this atlas from 1665, it doesn't even exist. The North Pole does, but the South Pole isn't on here.
Shout out Calyx.
And thank you, Calyx member channel. Appreciate it. Were you gonna hold that up, Alexander? Ooh, got some fancy OG technology.
Appreciate you, Steven.
Sorry. Freaking still need to figure out my stupid.
Do you know much about Pyramid Mountain, Bernie?
Pyramid Mountain, which one?
Near you?
Near me?
I thought there was one somewhere up there, like near Banff or something.
Not to my awareness, but would not surprise me at all. And I'm gonna have to search this now. It's amazing how many pyramid mountains there are out there.
Oh, the one I wrote in the White Pyramid, but there's another one too called just Pyramid Mountain. It's in Alberta as well.
Yeah, I wrote
Jasper.
Oh, sorry, Shem. Were you trying to share or?
No, I don't.
Pyramid Mountain, and it says Pyramid Mountain, Alberta. First thing up. Not seen this. Got me a new mountain to hike. Oh yeah, in Jasper.
Yeah.
Mount
And then there's the White
McKinley.
Pyramid in Banff too.
And Mount Merlin, apparently, right close to Pyramid Mountain. Fascinating. That don't really look like a pyramid, though. And sorry, which one in Banff were you saying?
The White Pyramid.
The White Pyramid.
Yeah, Steven has a comment too about the governor of Arizona. His burial plot is a giant white pyramid in Phoenix. It's like similar to the one that you find close to, or I think it's close to Yale. I'm not sure. I don't remember. There's one on the East Coast too. There, it reminded me of when I saw it. I think Praveen Mohan actually has a video about the one that I'm talking about. It could be Robert Suffer though, where they walk up to the pyramid and film the inside. And
I've seen that video.
I don't remember what it's called though, unfortunately.
Huh.
I'll look it up real quick. The Arizona one though. Yeah, Hunt's tomb. Pretty strange.
I think there's one of those in Toronto too.
Right? Like there's pyramid mountains everywhere.
I wouldn't be surprised if they build it in modern times though, but it is interesting. George W.P. Looks like Jordy Jordan from Wings of Redemption. What do you guys think about the these more representations of the Dendera light bulb around Egypt? Do you think that that's what that is right here on the left?
Definitely looks like it.
Yeah, these symbols are found in multiple places in Egypt.
Wow. I was unaware of that.
Like right here. Google Earth found it right here. Not sure what they would represent in hieroglyphics, but yeah, there's I think 5 different locations I found them at. Well, 5 including the original.
That looks like a light bulb, just Egyptian style. That's wild. And does the snake mean current or electricity? Potentially that's below it.
It could. I would like to hear other interpretations of what it means though.
Because symbols, have multiple meanings. There's a picture's worth 1,000 words. So a symbol can mean 1,000 different things. And it's not that the modern translation of ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs is wrong. It's just that it's not all there, not all the understanding. And
well, Egyptian history is completely messed up. I mean, multiple chronologists have different opinions about how it started. I mean, there's 4 or 5 different first kings of Egypt. It's hard to figure out exactly where it all began and who's who, because a lot of them have the same exact story but just different names.
Oh, absolutely. And it's ridiculous how ridiculous the official Egyptian history story is, and what they still try to claim and teach today.
Yeah, I kind of agree with Magneto in the chat too that it could be a plasma light bulb, like those plasma globes you get.
100%.
Like, because it could just have a gas in there that reacts to whatever power is being generated from the pyramid.
Exactly. The electrostatic energy in the area activates the vacuum tube, plasma tube, and turn it into a light.
I wonder what else it could be, though. I mean, just I don't know. If you think, because people do speculate that the pyramids were a way of generating energy, so maybe they're some sort of battery as well. Because why would I mean that's a pretty huge light bulb. You'd think it's impractical to make that a light source, right? So I mean they probably had alternative light sources if we're considering that they had electricity back then.
What do you think? It's a homunculus or something?
I honestly have no idea what it could be. It's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen.
I'm not ruling homunculus in a jar out. That could be. That's funny.
I mean,
And
historical texts talk about them using different various oils to power lamps underground, right? And or inside of their structures. So they had like long burning oils that they specialized in. So I don't see them like so that's the mainstream narrative, although it's not talked about very often. So maybe they didn't even need electricity because these oils could have had multiple effects on their body. Maybe they were actually like good for them to consume the fumes from the oil since they are inside, right?
Yeah,
We're talking about plants that are sometimes extinct today or unknown
yeah,
what they are. So
yeah, they could be
potentially.
biogas digesters. Like the pyramids could even be gigantic biogas digesters. Basically, you throw a bunch of like compost into those things that John Levi was showing out in the desert, and then it creates a gas enough to power electricity. They're
the
pretty cool.
kilns.
Yeah, those kilns, like that's why most of them aren't burnt because there's something called biogas digesters, and it was a way to create power with rotting vegetables. So I speculate that like that was a big farming area before, and then they just dump all their rotten crops or like waste in there, and were powered that way in the past, possibly.
It's very interesting, but it'd be
Biofuel.
because in Spain you have the same exact type of ovens in the old Carthaginian cities or Phoenicians. So it'd be interesting to find out based on like what you're saying if both those places had like a large agricultural history and maybe there's something to what you're saying.
Yeah, I'll bring it up.
But I mean I don't know.
Yeah. If you're able to share, for sure. So
Give me
this
one
is
second, I'll come back.
in Ohio, where you live, one of the mounds / buried pyramids that you've been exploring.
Yeah, this is Jeffers Mountain in Worthington. It's in the middle of a neighborhood. As you can see, there's houses surrounding this. For some reason, they decided to spare this mound, even though they've torn down some of the largest ones. Like, for example, there used to be a mound on one of the busiest roads in Columbus called Mound Street that was apparently torn down to make room for a road. But this one here you're looking at still survives north of Columbus and basically an area right north of OSU campus, like 5-minute drive. But the interesting thing about this is that the entire area around this is likely man-made as well. Like when I'm driving to get in here, this goes down into the river right here, but it's multiple layers going up. And
Kim, do you
sometimes
mind making that full screen for us?
yeah, and then sometimes I'll walk down here with my dogs and stuff down along this river, and you can see old brickwork along the river where there used to be like boats or something. I don't know what would be there, but there was just like brickwork and docks and stuff set up all along the river. And
Really?
I don't know.
That's
Really interesting.
amazing. You're gonna have to get us some footage of that too. And you're probably bang on with that entire area is like man-made and terraformed constructed. Like first off called Pyramid Street. So clearly there were multiple. And the fact that when we look at such sites as the Bosnian pyramids and all the research and discoveries Samir has made, and showing that the entire valley, including the waterways and systems throughout it, were all terraformed and constructed and part of the purpose and function of the sites.
This area, well, there in history they give multiple reasons for the earthworks existing. Some of them are even as simple as they wanted to be able to get inside the castles during a siege, which sounds insane, but that's what people like Herodotus and Diodorus of Sicily say, and they're some of the most important historians that we have access to. But the area that this mountain that that we're looking at now is located in is like a hotspot for mounds in Ohio. And as you can see by this plaque here that's at the site, I believe that this one right here is the mound, and then this is an older, larger mound, and then there were earthworks all around this area as well, but none of them survived to this day. They have one little area that's I guess maybe this is where the wigwam was or something. That they, for some reason, they kept this. I don't know. It's just really silly to me.
Well, it's to
But
show
it's there.
insignificance. Oh, it was just this one little hill with this one little foundation that was wood that rotted away. Nothing to see here. Don't worry about whatever we excavated and destroyed and removed while building on these sites.
Yeah, it's ridiculous, and you can see in the thumbnail here kind of what it looked like before as well. Well, I can't really go over it, but right here where my mouse is now, that's a map of the old site before it was destroyed, and you can see it kind of goes down to the river right here as well. And then up here there used to be like another river type structure that's completely changed now. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we have serpent mounds here in Ontario as well. Not a lot of people know of them, but they're in Rice Lake. It's a National Historic Site of Canada.
Really?
Yeah, I'll bring that up, but show that biogas digester for a second before I explode here.
Yeah, let's bring that up.
So that's how it works. You can feed any type of waste or anything that decomposes in it, and then it goes down into the digester, and then the digester collects all the gas, and then you can use the combustion to create electricity. So that's
They
how
use this type of technology today in some places around the world. I guess they're trying it out to like help with relief for poor areas and stuff. But I'll be right back. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, and like you can make these at home too out of garbage cans and such.
We're gonna have to try one of these. Just make your own biofuel.
Yeah, like this.
It explains a lot of like the cisterns and what's the basins and whatnot that are built into a lot of old structures, and also the pyramids in the surrounding areas. Oh, nice.
Yeah. Yeah, so I suspect like where a lot of those old kilns are found with no burning in them, that's what they were, and they were highly like fertile grounds at one point that are no longer being used. When I was watching that one John Levi video, I knew what these were before, and it instantly was like, oh man, that's exactly what those things are. But yeah, that's biogas digesters, and
It's all sorts of like I guess analog style power and just technology that the ancients used and built and utilized and incorporated into all of their functioning architecture and building and terraforming, and or had clearly a lot more abundance and what's the right word? Just healthier, freer living or developed living than what we have possibly even today.
yeah, like there was more different avenues of creating energy, power, whatever you want to call it, before everything was taken over by the black ooze.
Right?
They've been
genetic
using
work.
vitamin they've been using vitamin for much of recorded history though, so I wouldn't necessarily say that, but I do think that it's possible there are alternative energy sources.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and a lot more, right? And it's kinetic work that it was through hydropower, through wind power as well, and through animal power. But then this biofuel's a great possibility. with it.
Yeah, I'll try and bring up another example of it. I think they found them in Australia somewhere too.
And making different gases, that's also can go into utilizing in the function and industry of both airship potentially, as well as gases for plasma lights and stuff like that.
Yeah, and all you need is a distillation column to do that, so that's easy peasy. But yeah, you are dead on with that too. And that's what I was thinking when Hans was mentioning last time too. He was saying that there's like a theory that the pyramids run like recreating hydrogen. So I kind of think that they could be using those to fuel like possibly airships or something. Like, I don't know. That's what I instantly thought as soon as he said that, because he said the vents were at the top or something. So
Right, exactly. And that there's a very good chance of that. And with my own electrolysis experiments and just how easy it is to turn water into hydrogen and oxygen, as well as well, it's a little bit more advanced, but we're figuring it out. But and for all we know, the ancients could have had it figured out of actually transmutating hydrogen into helium and then using both gases in the airship technology. Stephen, not yet, but I will be creating one very soon.
oh gosh.
Shout there.
Shout out Mystery Eon as well, my Sherry Anilani, Mindful Exposures, Anthony Williams, not really here. Everybody in the chat, thank you for being here today. So what you're showing right now, Elkman, they're building with brick biodigester.
Yeah. So yeah,
Looks like a lot of the runes that we find all over the place.
yeah, and they even kind of look like silos too. And like some people like in their towns have water towers that are in weird shapes too. So they could also be some kind of form of biogas digester. And like with what you were saying, separating the different gases, like it happens at different heights in the column and at different temperatures. So like the tall obelisk type ones could be used to be fueling something that's up there.
Well, especially the vents at the top, and then the turn of the century, all of the Art Deco style building towers that literally had airship boarding top roof, or yeah, the tops, I guess, whatever you call it.
Yeah.
I just don't understand why they would stop using it.
Well, they claimed the hydrogen, they were filling them with hydrogen, and then it was dangerous and they exploded in the Hindenburg. But I personally suspect and feel that was like a false flag to cancel them and like eliminate
Definitely.
them when most likely they were probably using helium, which is exponentially safer and easy to do potentially. But that will be a whole other episode that will get into the details of it. And also that there's the potential that the airships could have, turned into off-world or interdimensional craft. Lots of the times, supported UFOs are like the bigger ones are these cigar-shaped ones that, who knows?
And I think there's a reason for all the different shapes of mounds too, because you can only really see them from above. So I think it's for like so they know where to land their airships to pick up whatever supplies or hang out with whatever people.
right, explain all the geoglyphs literally all over the world, everywhere, and the rationale behind them, right? They had
Yeah,
to
like,
have.
even in Ontario, there's hundreds of them, like the rat mounds, there's squirrel mounds, bear mounds, like whatever. So yeah, I do think there was a lot more air travel in the past.
No doubt about it. With the geoglyphs, the only possible way or reason for making them is from viewing them from above. So it had to be for someone.
Yeah, I mean, this is the Zeppelin talking about how they could cross the Atlantic Ocean in 43 hours. And at the bottom, compared to the Queen Mary, which is the old way of crossing, it took like 5 days. So they're able
Under
to,
2 days in an airship. That's crazy.
yeah, and these airships had a lot of stuff inside of them as well. Like this is the construction of one of them, and you can see how massive it is. But they had like sleeping areas, like a dining room. There's some pictures available of that online.
If it wasn't for the hydrogen, and if they were able to mass produce and use helium, there would be zero risk of fire and explosion, and it would be exponentially safer than a ship on water that could sink, because it would, you don't have to keep fueling it to keep it buoyant or up in the sky, right? It's not like a hot air balloon where you have to keep heating the air. Once you have it trapped in that specific buoyancy, you'd be stable.
Yeah, you're right.
We were talking about the different uses of mounds earlier, so this is from Diodorus of Sicily. And real quick, before we talk about the mounds, I just want to show that all the way back, according to them in ancient Egypt, we have people digging tunnels through mountains to get water to go to a city. So this is talking about Queen Semiramis, which is, I think, often associated with Queen Nitocris of Italy, or not Italy, Egypt as well. But it says here, and since a great lake which emptied into a river lay on the other side, she made cutting through the base of this mountain. The tunnel was 15 feet wide and 40 feet high, and through it she brought in the river which flowed from the lake and filled the city with water. So that's what she did in Media. But anyways, it says here that after she visited Persis and every other country over which she ruled throughout Asia, everywhere she cut through the mountains and precipitous cliffs and constructed expensive roads. While on the plains she made mounds, sometimes constructing them as tombs for those of her generals who died, and sometimes founding cities on their tops. So cities on their tops. Why is that interesting? Because if you look at Israel today, a lot of the, or that area in general, a lot of the places are called tel, like Tel Aviv, for example. A tel is a mound or like an artificial structure made by humans. So a lot of these cities are built on these giant artificial structures. Let's continue.
Just like that one you showed in our last episode together, the entire.
Well, even that's smaller than what I'm talking about, because that's in, like, that wouldn't even, I don't even know how to describe how big it is, but it was also her custom whenever she made up camp to build little mounds upon which, setting her tent, she could look down upon all the encampment. As a consequence, many of the works she built throughout Asia remain to this day and are called the works of Semiramis. So these works of Semiramis are pretty much lost to history. We don't know what they are. If you look it up right now, you won't find very much information about it. But I do think that a lot of the remnants you see all throughout that area could be these works. And also, what's interesting about Semiramis is that there's like an androgynous thing going on with her, where sometimes it seems like the same character is presented as a female sometimes and as a male other times, because you hear the same thing about, say, for example, like Men or Sesostris and of Egypt as well. So it's hard to tell who exactly they're referring to in this story, but yeah, someone did some great stuff in history apparently.
So many. That's a fascinating point. And how many of those cities are built on these artificial mounds, mountains, and pyramid structures?
Well, Luke was talking about a lot of them in England as well when I've had conversations with them before. So it seems like they're pretty much everywhere. It seems like it was just the normal thing to do to build these earthworks. Whenever I mean, I've seen pictures of castles in like in Gaul and like Germany, I guess you can call it, like the German areas and the French areas that have these massive mounds on the outside of the castle, and that lines up with some of the reasons that are given in history for the mounds, because sometimes they would literally just construct earthworks, I guess, according to mainstream history, to and like if they're doing a siege on a castle or a fortress, they would build an earthwork to be able to march the troops in there. And you see evidence of this, but it could be, I mean, that could just be a cover story, who knows? But it's just interesting that they had the resources to be able to build an earthwork on the fly to invade fortress. I find that completely fascinating.
That is like, there's just so much that has been written out and covered up and lied about in our history and hidden in plain sight everywhere.
Well, it seems like even since the beginning of time that like the earliest chronologists we have evidence of are already trying to like rewrite history. They're already doing what we're doing today. Like Herodotus or Diodorus, they're basically going through the sources, if we believe mainstream history to be what it is. They're going through the sources that they have and they're saying like, oh, this isn't true and this is why. And then they're correcting it, or they're saying like, this is what this person says and this is what this person says and this is why it's bullshit. So if we think mainstream history is accurate all the way back in like 500 or the 5th century BC, people are already questioning the sources that they have. So just think
Right?
about
Like,
how
wasn't there 8 or 12 different accounts of Atlantis and what destroyed it or something like that? Or Egypt, or what created Egypt? I think it was something like that. And then Plato's or Herodotus was the only one left there that's made it.
well, for some reason, yeah, a lot of Herodotus' work survives, but a lot of other people, we have a lot of stuff missing. But it's interestingly in the most contentious points of history, like the fall of Troy, for example. Diodorus of Sicily, his lost books are like pretty much around that period and a little bit after, and then also the Celts versus the Roman Empire is missing from a lot of these texts as well. So it's interesting how that it seems to be the same areas of history that are missing. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to that. Some people speculate that the reason this happens is because a lot of these texts weren't even created until like the 1500s, 1600s in our history, and they're just basically putting them back way further than what they should be. But
Yeah, and some not as far back and others way further. It, we man, flamenco, there's just so much to it, and it's so intriguing because it's like you wonder what he could be right about, and then there's just so much that's
there's way more than flamenco who's questioning history. Like there's I I can think of 18, 20 different people who are doing the same exact thing as flamenco, and a lot of them are unconnected. I'm talking about over the last like 300 years. So he's not the only person who's questioning this stuff. It's just obviously, it's pretty popular right now with what's going on with Tartarian and everything like that. But like people like Isaac Newton, for example, question history.
yeah.
Like there's like these few German scientists in the 90s or whatever who were doing the same thing, but I'd never heard of the same work that was based off flamenco's work. I mean, there's so many sources. All these people are just saying that Scaliger Batavia's history is not correct. See if I can pull some of this up actually. Oh yeah, Semiramis is allegedly also responsible for Babylon. Was the last thing to show with that. Okay. Yeah, so here's some people who have gone against Scaliger chronology. E. Bickerman, he's a very prominent modern chronologer.
Yeah, exactly. So many, and I brought up Fomenko's name only because he is trending, and just how much he rewrote and focused on a new chronology timeline with everything. But you're absolutely right in illustrating and highlighting literally half of history um, figures question the official historical narrative, right?
Well, the interesting thing about Isaac Newton too is he was so afraid to publish his research that he never wanted to come out. Basically, he lended it out to people who he trusted and said, "Don't release this."
Oh,
And then
absolutely. His alchemy writings, and then what they call his oh, what do they label it as? Religious texts and prophecy texts, I guess I think is what it's under. But really it's just the science of alchemy, experimenting, as well as his philosophical and historical research.
well, the interesting thing about Fomenko too is that the reason that he ended up doing this, he wasn't going into what his research expecting to change chronology. Basically, he found this coefficient d that Robert Newton calculated was from 700 to 1300, where the moon would have had to have been accelerating in order for it to make sense. So he was doing some problem where he came across this and he's like, this doesn't make sense. So he basically combined this Robert Newton guy's calculations with N.A. Morozov's changes of the eclipse datings in relation to events like in Herodotus or Diodorus of Sicily, because they talk about the sun darkening during a battle or whatever in all these different sources. So he combined that together, and when he combined those two things together, he realized you no longer had to have an acceleration of the moon during that time period. It basically evened it out. So when he did that, he's like, okay, well, chronology is wrong. So that's when he started going back through every single source in history, literally every single source, and reading the source and dating it and getting all this extensive research done through everything to determine his thesis that a lot of these texts were basically either forged or created between the 15th and 17th centuries in order to create some sort of false narrative for whatever reason. He doesn't say Scaliger and Petavius are intentionally doing this. He alludes to that they could have genuinely been trying to make a real chronology, but for some reason there's someone else, a higher power behind this, that seems to be causing this. But yeah, I mean,
Higher powers causing it. Reoccurring theme that comes up.
yeah, I mean, it's pretty interesting stuff. It's really hard to explain briefly.
Oh, it doesn't just need its own episode, it needs its own whole series to get into the depths of it. If you don't mind continuing on just for a minute here, I'm going to send out a couple invitations, as I know you guys got to go pretty quick as it's getting late for you both as you work tomorrow. And Elkman, you're overcoming the flu or cold or something. Appreciate you both being with us. But it's going to send Mindful Exposures the link, and I believe Mike Ancient or Alien Carvings will be joining here shortly.
All right, so let's talk about the validity or reliability of radiocarbon dating. So the first archaeologist who opposed the radiocarbon method was Vladimir Milosic. Basically what happened was the shell of a living American mollusk had a radioactivity index of 13.8 as compared to the average value of 15.3, which makes it 1,200 years old. So basically he's saying that based on radiocarbon dating, this mollusk was supposed to be 1,200 years old. North African wild rose flower with a radioactivity of 14.7 has been dead for 360 years. So he's saying that a flower that's still alive based on radiocarbon dating is supposed to have been dead for 360 years. Australian eucalyptus with a radioactivity of 16.31, it isn't likely to exist anywhere within the next 600 years. So a eucalyptus leaf that is living right now is not supposed to exist for 600 more years. A shell from Florida with a value of 17.7 17.4, shall only appear in 1,080 years. So a shell that exists that they're holding in their hands isn't supposed to exist for 1,080 more years. All right, let's move on because there's one that's really insane to me about seals. So yeah, with those types of numbers, how can you even trust radiocarbon dating for anything that's close within yeah, here we go. The Arabian card analysis of seals that have just been shot define their age as 1,300 years, a dating mistake of 1,300 years. So they just killed these seals, and they're saying that they're supposed to be dead for 1,300 years. Seals that were mummified 30 years ago have been dated as 4,600 years old. So
Crazy.
pretty interesting stuff, yeah.
Petrified tree logs through multiple sediment layers has entered the chat. It's a comment. It's a good one.
So I think radiocarbon dating, basically what he alludes to in this book is he says radiocarbon dating is useful for things in like the thousands of years, like dating it to like a period within thousands of years. But if you're trying to date something within the chronology that we have right now, it seems unreliable because I think the largest number he gets to is like 6,800 year error. Let's look for that real quick. I don't remember off the top of my head, but I think the largest number was like 6,000 years or something. So just think about that for a second. Our history is like probably like what, 5,000 years.
That's strange.
So there's a dating era right here for 45, 70 years for those seals that are mummified. So I mean that's just outrageous. But
That
I don't.
is. We're gonna have to our next conversation with Samir Zvanovic go into the radiocarbon dating mishaps and accuracies because I believe he also is pretty well versed in understanding it a lot more. Maybe even when Mike comes on, I'll ask him about that later tonight. He might know a bit more, as I know he's been trying to figure that out with labs, and just that sort of inaccuracy is mind-blowing. And if it is that inaccurate, it could make sense on why they made it the standard if they're trying to hide and mislead official history and dating and stuff like that.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the argument is for why it would be so off. But there's another part in this book where he talks about the temples of Egypt. I'm trying to see if I can find that. It's so long. Basically, he uses the Dendera long and short zodiac to kind of prove the year they were built in based on the picture of the zodiac's position in the temples. But yeah, as you can see, all of his research is pretty in depth. It's not just like he started in I think 1972, and now we're in 2023, and it's still going on to this day. Like the 8th volume just came out like within the last 4 months of his chronology. The 8th volume just came out, so like this is still ongoing research.
Right? It's a life's work and it never gets finished. It ongoing and to picking up the torch.
Yeah, but I mean, if you guys have something to share while I look for this, feel free. If not, I'll just play this video of a mound I discovered in Clintonville that was said to be lost on the Ohio School for the Deaf.
Heck yeah, that's awesome. Please make her large screen though. And I will get up a couple pyramid videos I wanted to share as well. Well, that's going.
I just don't even understand why they would lie about history. I mean, I don't know.
Right? There's got to be a much larger underlying reason, right? Something that's being covered up and hidden, and most likely that we're not alone. We're not the only um, intelligent hominid species on this planet or realm. Yeah, please do, Stephen.
Were you saying, were one of you saying that it was possible that pyramids were used to flood places?
Um,
No,
I have not heard that. Actually, I think Ben waking up with the archivist waking up with analog goes into that a lot, with it being like a hydraulic like valve for the like floodings of like the deluge or something like that, the inner plumbings of guess the ocean, seas, or something. I have, and I do suspect, and I think we've gone into it a little bit in past episodes of whose research was it? Maybe David Steger, maybe I'm not. It'll come to me. Anyways, that the Egyptian pyramids were used. They have underground shafts leading out underneath the deserts, as well as connecting into the Nile River in several places, and that they were used for irrigation and water management, and a huge part of their function was hydraulic.
Well, I think it's Herodotus says that the first king of Egypt basically created some sort of dam system at part of the Nile that they had to improve constantly to prevent the area of the pyramids from being flooded. And the way he was describing it made it sound like to me that it could be used as a weapon to flood the area of Cairo. And then you do have a lot of Egyptologists that talk about the Sphinx and the pyramids being underwater at some point. So when I read that and I thought about that, I did think it was possible that the Nile does have something to do with that, and a lot of those dams and stuff around there, if the dam still exists to this day, because we're talking about ancient sources that I'm referring to. But they were talking about back then how I think his name was Men built certain dams to control the flow of water in the Nile, and they even refer to it being able to flood Cairo specifically.
Really, gonna have to read that and go over that in depth. As what past episode we did with Luke, shout out to Ancient Historian. We'll have to do another episode with him specifically going into this. Is that there's a lot of canals throughout that area as well, and just the floodplains of the Giza Plateau. And we were looking at it on Google Earth there, and it seemed like it was just a giant agricultural area that was used to be used for farming.
All right, so let's check this out real quick. The images known as the round and long zodiac nowadays have been found in the Dendera temple in Egypt. Multiple attempts in the 19th and 20th century astronomers find ancient solutions that would fit the horoscope depicted the zodiacs have failed to yield any results. Such eminent scientists as Laplace, Fourier, Laton, Biot, and Helm have tried to solve this problem. The search for the correct solution was eventually abandoned after many unsuccessful attempts. Nowadays, the temple and the horoscopes are dated to 30 BC and 14 through 37 AD. However, it turns out that there are exact astronomical solutions. We shall give a very concise account of the matter, especially in part 2 of Cron 3. Okay. Basically, he ends up dating the zodiacs to like the 15th or 16th century based on the position. So here's a
Really?
depiction of
I
the
mean,
round zodiac right here. And it has,
AD, like BCE, not like only 500 years ago.
yeah, there's a part where he brings up I think it's his sister or something, who, she's an astronomer and she dates it.
What book is this?
This is Fomenko's New Chronology, History, Fiction, or Science, is the official name of it.
So Fomenko is still alive, and he just published this a few months ago, correct?
This one came out, I believe, in the 90s. The first volume 1 did,
Okay.
but he just published volume 8 like within the last 6 months, I believe, in English. I have it. I just don't remember when it came out.
Well, then, I
Okay,
guess
so
we are
yeah, here
going to
we
have
go.
to try to schedule an interview with him and talk directly, right?
That would be amazing, but who knows if that would happen. How do you even make that happen?
The law of attraction, power of projection, and the fact that I'm going to figure out how to email him and write him and get it done.
Yeah, but he goes into detail about the different imagery of Saturn and how it relates to different imageries at certain times, stuff like that. Just there's multiple reasons why he thinks this. It's not simple at all. Yeah. So let's see.
Right. Because in the Fomenko like chronology universe, there's the Thunderbolts project, essentially the electric universe, but that the planets are moving around, changing positions, having giant like arc plasma things happening, and like different crazy doomsday events. Correct?
Sorry, what I didn't
Like
catch.
Fomenko's part of Fomenko's main thesis is that like Venus, Saturn, the different planet heavenly bodies, that they're a lot more active, that they aren't in like these fixed positions, that they move about at different parts, and that they've created mass like cataclysms throughout history, right? Is that correct?
I don't know. I don't remember reading something like that from Fomenko, but it does sound like something like that Chan Thomas book, The Adam and Eve Story. I'm not sure though.
I'm gonna have to look into that.
So it's saying that the zodiac was created when, in the 1500s?
It's saying that the temples were built basically. They give multiple dates, but I think the most recent one is like, let's see. Yeah, this one right here. T and Fomenko got the result of the 7th or 8th of April in 1727. So up as recently as 1727, they're claiming that these temples could have been built.
And which temples were these specifically? Like the pyramids of the Giza Plateau, or
No, the Dendera temple complex.
Dendera Temple? Okay, but then, like you said, there was several. So it's like the most recent was just 500 or so years ago, and then before that, it would be is it 12,000 or like 24,000, a half or full cycle of
I,
the procession of
I
the
think
wall?
the earliest date that they got was in the 500s AD for the short zodiac, I believe it was. But yeah, they go into all these details about different gods that are depicted.
So I believe my understanding, if correct on how it works, is that it would have been that it could have either been built just that most recent time, 500 years ago, or then the time before that, it would have had to be pre-cataclysm, like during the Younger Dryas time, either right around the time of the catastrophe or an additional 12,000 years, like so 24,000, or is it 26, whatever the precession of the equinox time is. Like,
well, I don't remember the date that Chan Thomas book gives for the last cataclysm, but I do know he says they're very frequent, and I found that book absolutely fascinating. I don't know, there's just so many possibilities of how often the cataclysm could be happening. I mean,
absolutely.
Example, like people like Jason Sears give 138 years, so 138 years is like the fastest one I've heard of.
But like, 100%. To clarify, what I was specifically speaking on was the official geological, archaeological time frame of 12,000 years of official time being the Younger Dryas time frame of the last ice age, and then it's like melting, the cataclysm that Graham Hancock, Randall Carlson, and so forth have put forward the evidence of. But either way, it was when all the megafauna died off, and supposedly when man came up or whatever, and there's no sort of history before that as far as civilization goes, I guess, in the official books. Point being that it's also the cycle of time of the precession of the equinox, or what they call the wobble of the earth, the amount of time that it takes for the precession of the different equinoxes to circle through of what rises on the horizon and make it back in a full cycle. And the point of all of that was the main cataclysm destruction that I put as a time frame of epochs, as opposed to the possibility and likelihood that there have been multiple very severe cataclysms or worldwide event destruction since that time, wiping out civilization quite frequently, it seems. I'm gonna stop my rant now.
Well, to me, it seems like a lot of the stuff is just keeping track of where certain things are in the sky for some reason. Now, is that reason a cataclysm? That's up for debate, but it does seem likely because what other reason would they have? But that also, based on the time scale you're giving, that means that people have been passing down this tradition for thousands of years. So to me, the more practical idea is that it is a lot shorter, because I don't think people would have been able to pass down those oral traditions or written traditions for as long as we would be imagining with that time frame you're giving. So, but a very important thing in Freemasonry and a lot of these mystery religions is the two pillars. They have the pillar of the sun and the pillar of the moon. One is supposedly, they're both written with this secret information on them. One is supposed to be able to survive the water cataclysm, and the other one is supposed to be able to survive the fire cataclysm. So that's why there's two of them in some circles, is to preserve this knowledge based on which cataclysm happens, because apparently there's two different variations.
Yeah. They also need to track them so they could travel, like nautical.
Yeah, I mean that's another good point about why they're important. But the way what I'm talking about is, I guess, if you read a lot of mythology and a lot of these ancient texts, they're talking about, like Orion shooting his arrow at this certain bull, or someone cutting the bull's throat. You see what I'm saying? Like they're just like the serpent coiling around this certain constellation. So it seems to be, if you believe astronomy or astrology at all, it seems to be describing the stars or the bodies in the sky moving in certain ways for whatever reason. And Osiris and Dionysus have a lot to do with it, which is apparently the Sirius star system. And a lot of these random myths around the world, and like even from the craziest conspiracy theory to like real life historical things, for some reason have something to do with the Sirius star system.
Yeah, even the Dogon, right?
And once again, Sirius is Osiris, and Osiris is given credit in a lot of these old texts as being the first king of Egypt for some reason. So when I was talking about Sosistrus and Men and all these people earlier, for some reason, Osiris is also the same as them. It's really confusing. It's very confusing stuff. I don't claim to know what I'm talking about. I'm just saying that's what they say, and I don't know why they say it.
Right, the common theme everywhere, and that you're absolutely right that there's like it seems like the world or there's Armageddon, like destructions, cataclysms have happened time and time again, and that most of the time there's these different gods that are responsible for it, and that somehow what's happening in the sky above somehow affects it all, right? Like it happens during these certain like movements of stars or different phenomenon, stuff like that. Records of like the sun not rising for days or it reverses and stuff like that.
Well, here's a guy with a musket on the back of a horse during the biblical apocalypse. Don't know why, but
Mind-blowing stuff. Oh yeah, this one. So when we started out, Elkman mentioned White Peak and Pyramid Mountain in Banff.
Yeah, the White Pyramid.
Or the White Peak there, and then I guess Pyramid Mountain is in Jasper, which is 100 kilometers north of the site. Very, very sus spots. I am going to have to check them out. Sucks we can't zoom. Or can we zoom? Nope.
Hey, Bernie, you know those kettle balls or whatever they're called? Are near you? Are they near shale?
We were talking about this last time, and they could well be. There could be shale deposits within. I believe definitely oil fields around that area. All of Alberta has oil fields, and I'm pretty sure we passed some oil pumps on the way driving in there. Officially, I believe it's all sandstone there, but what's to say that there couldn't be shale beneath that?
Yeah.
Pinnacle Mountain also in Banff. This another one very sus. I'm gonna have to check out. The Three Sisters. Have you heard of them?
No, but I wonder if they line up like usual.
They're, I guess, in front of Canmore, right before Banff, in the Rockies there, and there's legends of three native indigenous princess queens being carved onto the backsides of them, and I really have to plan a backpacking expedition in there to explore it and try to document it. Several years ago, I checked it out with a buddy on Google Maps, and the one image that like it was like just pretty much identical to Julie Ryder's Giant's Playground in Montana, of like this giant megalithic mountain amphitheater style mountain. It was like all terraced blocks, like almost pyramidal going up it. And then apparently also it's where a bunch of like the major ley lines intersect as well, I've heard.
Cool.
But also simultaneously, and why I haven't like gone in there, like just try and like rush in as a day trip with like just a friend or two, especially not just by myself, is because it is also known, and where I believe it's from the University of Alberta up in Edmonton. They have been like investigating it and documenting a Sasquatch like family that lives in that valley, and there's like two alpha males, like the old one and a young one, and it's just an area that you don't really want to get kidnapped or upset Sasquatch. So yeah, it's gotta go in properly with enough people, do it proper, stay for a day or two, camp out, explore it properly, not get abducted. And
Maybe you do want to get abducted by Sasquatches.
but no, you make friends with them by like leaving them offerings of like fruit and stuff like that. And yeah, there's a whole series I saw on YouTube released by a professor of the biology department in U of A in Edmonton. And last I heard, they were applying with the Canadian government to get, they had enough evidence proving the Sasquatch and documenting it to get it on the endangered species list. This was several years ago, and I've never heard of it or been able to find it since. So I'm gonna have to look into that one again too. And yeah, y'all got any cryptids experiences, stories, or events you want to discuss or questions?
I've never had an experience with any cryptids, but it'd be nice to have one.
I can't recall any either. I've seen like a big blue fireball in the sky, and it just kind of like it wasn't like a meteor or like a comet or anything, but it was like hovering, and then it like kind of flew off. And then like I went home that day, and then other people had posted videos of it on YouTube.
That's epic.
Yeah, they're all gone now though. They're all taken down, every single one of them. That's why I created a YouTube channel. Like this was a long time ago, so I could save them all because I had no way to save them, but they were all deleted.
Right.
But yeah, that's kind of interesting. But if you go back and I researched it, and they say that it's been happening for years, and like people always say they see these big blue fireballs go into Lake Huron, and that's really close to where I'm at. So yeah, there could be some paranormal something or other happening there.
Sounds like it. That's epic, brother.
But never any Bigfoots or I don't know, giants or nothing.
I pulled up those mounds of Antarctica from earlier we were talking about. If you want to share my screen real quick. Yeah. So these are some of the sites I was talking about. They call them Karens on that website. These are all at Antarctica. But you can go to the
Karens.
The Secretariat of the Antarctic Treaty website, and it has a list of all these sites. A lot of them don't have pictures, but if you search, sometimes you can find some.
I've got one of those I found on Google Maps. It'll take me forever to find it, but
for some reason, you see a lot of these in North America too. I don't, just in like in the middle of the woods, or if you're like canoeing or something. Because the few times I've been canoeing, I've seen sites like this.
Well, are they burial sites? And also
Well, some
potential.
sources say that they say they're like burial sites sometimes, or they're just places where for traveling to point to know which direction to go next. So like landmarks, I guess. That's the story I've been given when I asked about what they were in North America, at least.
Yeah, there does appear to be many of them on the Canadian-US border from what I've seen.
But this one right here that my mouse is over, if you can see my mouse, the HSM 67, so Site 67, the Granite House Rock Cut. So there's a house apparently made of granite, but a lot of these don't have pictures, like I was saying. So you have all these monuments in Antarctica that just a lot of them don't have pictures.
Such a tease.
The Lighthouse Primo de Mayo built by Argentina. Ceremonial facilities of San Martin Base. Yeah, you get it.
I do suspect this. 2QIK for you games. Humanity will learn its true history and past when all of the sands of Giza have been uncovered. I suspect and believe. Or when the ice of Antarctica melts.
Yeah.
Right, because another possibility, of course, was the crustal displacement, and like during Einstein's life, it was a giant debate, and that in the end, I believe he said that he sided with this catastrophism, pole shifting crustal displacement theory. But who really knows? I sure don't. But I'd love to, figure it out one day. Like, uh, to finish off with like the pyramids and the Devon Island pyramids, and shout out to you, Elkman, like showing that map and then us being able to find those pictures of the pyramids there. And I suspect that by the description of Devon Island being the largest yet uninhabited, yet the pictures were given of the entrance are these terraformed canals with pyramids around it, and told that only NASA operates there to test its rovers in extreme conditions. I suspect that it's one of the 4 islands in the Mercator maps, and like that supposedly surrounds Mount Meru in the North Pole, that have like separated by the rivers in, and that could that Devon Island be one of those 4 that either had like pygmies or giants written on it that inhabited it?
Possibly. Next time, maybe we could get into some North Pole maps. I've got a lot we could get into, really old ones.
Yes, please. Let's aim for that. Possibly tomorrow, if you're down for doing it again.
I'm down.
Can do part 2 with Woo Woo Wednesday. I will just check if
Wednesday right now. Early Woo Woo Wednesday.
Right, exactly. Woo Woo Wednesday. I can edit it and put it, release it for the morning. It's officially Woo Woo Wednesday, going into part 2. But we will be back for official part 2, tonight or tomorrow, I guess, depending what time it is where you are. It is now 12:30 where Shem is, and Elkman, so you guys need to get to bed, and we will see you tomorrow. Any last things you wanted to discuss?
Yep, appreciate you having me. Shout out to the chat.
Appreciate you being here. And Elkman, I know you and your family fighting the flu or a cold or something, feel better and get some rest, and hopefully we'll be able to see you guys back here tomorrow, but we'll aim for a little earlier in the night.
Sounds good.
I'm going to play a bit of last night's pyramid technology presentation in electroculture here, and should be back shortly for part 2 with Mike from Alien Artifacts, or Ancient alien carvings, I believe it is. But the Mexican glow in the dark carvings, artifacts, big update. I guess the 2 supposed mummies from Peru that he had purchased. There's been an international ruling on them, and that they are also anyways. Well, we'll get into it with them. For now, I'm gonna play some pyramid technology from yesterday. Thank you all for being here. Make sure to go subscribe to Shem Jacobs, aka Tartarian Truth, and Elkman. And Elkman, what is your second channel?
Earth Gazer.
Earth Gazer, correct.
I'll put them in the chat in a second.
All right, have a good night, everyone. Peace out.
Much love, brother. Thank you for joining. All right, stop that screen, present this screen, and here we go. We got last night. See, and that's the thing when doing live streams, you name them, you aim for a theme and discussion, but you never know how it's really going to go. There wasn't that much metamaterials. I guess a bit of metaphysical, but not that much last night in Monday's metaphysical metamaterial Monday. Anywho, it was pyramids. It was pyramid technology. Ryan, any last words, or you got that in the chat I can share?
Nah, I'm good, man. I'll catch you all tomorrow if that's happening.
Okay, brother. Much love. Thanks for coming, and we will see you tomorrow, my friends.
All right, thanks for having me, man.
Channel
Thanks for being
of a friend,
better.
but I can share in the chat where you can find the guide if you want information, brother.
I would love that. You know, I've also heard, like, if you sit.
That's very interesting because this type of antennas are very healthy, not only healthy, but very healthy. And that's pretty safe. Well, I will start reading the data analysis I got from 4 of the 6 studies because, well, just for shortening the time, I will talk of 4 of the 6 studies. But you can find more information on the paper Angela will provide, where I included all the 6 studies. And well, the first one is the influence of the pyramidal effect on tomato cultivation. The study investigated the effect of black Buckaroo Woods pyramid on the growth of 3 tomato cultivars, measuring several parameters every 10 days. All cultivars were found to show improvements on the pyramidal effect, although results varied by cultivator. In
Yes,
addition,
please, and
the
always,
economic
John.
analysis revealed gains in the areas with the pyramid effect, with the line 2 being the most. In short, the pyramidal effect improved in the yield of tomato cultivars. Okay, this image is just a representation, are not the image of the real tomatoes. But in conclusion, the pyramid helped the cultivation of the tomato. We also have another study. The name is the germination of green gram with influence of the pyramid energy in lunar days, which is interesting because they took the moon cycles in consideration in this experiment, and they looked at the impact of 2 types of pyramids, polywood and copper, of 2 different sizes, and the germination of green grass seeds during the lunar month. The pyramids were observed to improve the germination, mean root length, and fresh seed weight compared to the control group. although they did not significantly affect baked dry weight. Copper pyramids and larger ones proved to be more effective, and germination was greatest during the first half of the crescent moon phase and the second half of the crescent phase. So they got uh, the best